everybody, and welcome to the art stream, our FurryArtSchool subreddit Discord. My name is Iofisk, and today we are going to be covering human proportions and basic external anatomy. And I'm going to be drawing, again, from the work of Bernd Hogarth when it comes to covering proportions. We're going to be measuring the human body largely in heads. Like when it comes down to it, things break down whenever you use like a singular standard of measurement, just because of the complexity of the human body. But this is a good enough starting point to get at least basic proportions down, and I'll talk a little bit about muscular anatomy too. But for the most part, if you only get really the proportions down, that's going to be a great primer for you for when it comes to drawing the human body, and that'll come in handy when you're drawing anthro bodies. So relating it back to furry art. All right, so we'll go ahead and start off with our unit of measurement. Our prime unit of measurement is the head. Well, what does the head look like? I've done a video on this before, but I will cover the basic principles. Sorry, putting my books aside. I will cover the basic principles of the human head. I'll go ahead and start up on a new layer. Turn all this off just for now, so we can cover it again. All right. So before, I was in previous videos, I have again used Hogarth's methods here. Stating that the head is from the front view, can be fit into a grid about 2 by 3. So, coming back to that. Alright. I'll draw just a little bit larger. Get that out of the way. Alright, so if we're drawing the human head, we can fit it in roughly a space that is 2 squares across and 3 down. And this is super rough. But again, it's just going to be a starting point. Like when it comes to all of these, when it comes to all of this is guidelines when it comes down to it. Don't take any of this as like super hard and super fast. Bodies are weird, bodies are unique. And they rarely ever adhere to a single standard. So yeah. Alright, when we're drawing out the head, top shape can be considered spheroid, at least from the front side. We're going to hit a circle, hitting all of the outside points right there. And then we're going to go down at an angle. This is a jaw angle. And we're going to be drawing something that's roughly ovoid, egg-shaped. Bisect across here. But yeah, so this is our basic. Like, if you remember nothing else, remember that the head fits in approximately this proportion. That's the main important thing for what we're going to go over later as far as like body proportions. But I'll break down the face proportions here too, because the face is super important. If you can get the face right, if you can kind of master, portrait drawings, that can earn you a lot of money as an artist. Not everyone wants to do portraits, but it's an idea. Alright, so this center where we've bisected the entire thing, this is approximately a halfway point. This is the halfway point. This is going to be where our kind of brow ridge starts, and you can think of it as starting out like here, and there's going to be archway right there, and an archway right here, and then the arch will give way to a nose, which will come down here, and then there will be a space for a space for the chin at the bottom here, and a space for the lips, and a space for the septum. So we'll have like a bottom of the lip. Alright, eye sockets, super important. Side arches, making sure that you know you aren't always going to draw these, but the shape of the cheekbone will roughly line up to the bottom of the nose. So a couple things here, keeping in mind the proportions again. So a human head is going to be approximately 5 eye lengths wide at this midsection right here. So at the brow is going to be approximately 4 eyes wide, right up there. So 5 eyes wide, right at the eye space. There will be a space about the size of the eye between 2 eyes. And that space between the 2 eyes can also tell you how wide the nose is. And then coming down from the center of the eyes can tell us exactly how wide a mouth should be. And these are good proportions to kind of keep in your anthropomorphic drawing too. It makes them more human-like. And so this ovoid shape, we can kind of develop it so that the angle of the jaw comes out a bit more. And the jaw angle is generally going to line up with the side of the mouth from the front there. We're going to have some side arches. Those are a natural extension of kind of the cheekbones. It all forms part of the zygomatic process, is what it's called. That's bone anatomy. But yeah, so we can have a general human head, and this is kind of leans towards male. If you want to lean it towards female, what you do is you reduce the chin a bit. So if you make the chin a bit shorter, you can make that more effeminate and kind of round out the shapes for a more feminine head shape. But yeah, so that's the head. I think I covered pretty much everything. Brow, nose, eye sockets, cheekbones, mouth. When thinking of the mouth, you can kind of think of it as it juts out a bit. So if we take it from the side profile, in fact, that's something that I really should cover in more depth, the side profile. So let me scooch this over here. Perfect. All right, from the side profile, we can kind of translate. This is a interesting thing that Hogarth does. We can kind of translate the front view to the side view proportionally. We can do this similar kind of egg shape, and these aren't perfect right here, of course, but go with it for now. We can kind of translate this egg shape to like the side profile. What we do is we have a primary cranial mass here, and then what we do is we rotate it from approximately this point out this way. So instead of a 2x3, we now have a 3x3 kind of area, except this square is mostly going to remain empty. We can kind of repeat the egg shape there and there to give us kind of an idea of what the side profile. So in the side profile, it's going to be a bit squished, so let me drag it out this way. No. There we go. Okay. making sure that we know how to get it from the side profile too. Keeping in mind everything is going to line up where it did line up before. Bottom of the nose is going to be approximately here. Whoops. I've got a different color of pencil. There we go. Alright, so we got a big brow ridge here. Comes, the dome of the cranium, and then the brow ridge kind of comes out from there. And then when it comes down is going to form, then it kind of crests here, and then about the middle point, this is where our eyes are going to be. So since we're viewing them from the side, they're going to be out here. Nose is going to come down here. And then we'll have the mouth kind of comes out in a barrel shape right here from underneath the nose. It'll cut in there. And then there will be the chin. And again, the angle of the jaw, if we're going to come back here, it's going to be approximately here from where the sides of the lips are. So we see the lips right here, the bottom of the nose there, and the eyes. Oh, they don't line up perfectly here because I drew that a little bit tall. Let me see if I can get that right, actually. Yeah, the brow was a bit high. Okay. There we go. Bring in the eyes like that. And the brow shape. Cheekbones are going to be underneath the eyes. You're going to get this side arch shape right here. Remnants from the bone, you know. As far as for the rear of the skull, it's not really going to be a super egg-like shape. But this will get you a proportion to kind of start from, you know, and with all the typical caveats, you know, like head sizes vary, bodies vary, but this is a good place to kind of like start from. We got a nose, we got a mouth shape. It's going to come up. Again, it will only come back so far because we got comes back to the corner of the eyes. Bottom lip, kind of chin area. And again, if you're going for a more feminine form, you just kind of reduce the angles and reduce the chin a little bit. Soften the features a bit for the feminine form. And that gives you a kind of basis for the human head in profile. So, all right. Sorry, just a minute. All right. Cool. All right, so that's the head. Yeah, and again, you know, you can review these. You can go back to the video and review these if it went a bit too fast. The only thing that you really need to keep, again, reiterating, is this kind of 2:3 kind of proportion for the head. And whenever you're, because we're going to be using the head as our basis of measurement for the rest of our anatomical figure. All right. So, bringing this back up. All right. So we're going to again, proportions vary. This is what this is kind of a modification of what Hogarth proposed. This is kind of my own personal proposal on top of that. Is that whenever you're drawing a human body, you can basically operate it this way. So you stack 7 heads, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you add a third of the head up from there, and you add a third of a head down from there, and you add 1 head at the very top. This will get you a figure that is 8 2/3 heads high, and that's a little bit off from Hogarth's ideal, so to speak. So this is a heroic ideal body, Hogarth says it's 8 3/4 heads. I simplify it to 8 2/3 heads. That makes the foot a third and the neck a third from the shoulders. Again, bodies vary. Yours is gonna be different. And we'll cover the rest of these proportions, but yeah, we can go ahead and practice this form. So I'm gonna go ahead and go over here, and we'll make a new one. How about that? All right. So remembering that, so kind of keeping in space the 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope. It's gonna be too high. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. Approximately. Okay. That'll be good. All right. Keeping in mind you can do this. You can do it with the lines, but basically remember that the head shape is going to be so tall here. So 1, 2. Again, kind of. This can be an opportunity to practice like the head proportion shape. And again, it's going to be spherical and drop down a bit. Ovoid point. Draw out the sphere, bring it down. And I'm overlapping some lines here, so this is not going to be perfect. But a few things rarely are. So what did I get here? I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 heads approximately. This can go back to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale it down. So this can kind of simplify a method here. Drawing stuff. Drawing the human body. Alright, and dividing each of these approximately into thirds. So I will do that in the blue pencil here. Dividing each of these into thirds, you want to add 1 extra third to the bottom. And 1 extra third to the top. And then another head on top of all that. And the reason we do it this way is that if we take the Hogarth's reasoning, anyway, I should say, is that if we take this proportion and we take the average human head height of approximately 9 inches and we multiply it by 8 3/4, we get a figure that's approximately 6 foot 4 inches. And that's definitely on the tall things, like emphasis on this being like a heroic or ideal type of body. So 8 heads high, and you can even have, you know, proportions that go like 9 or 10 heads high. Sometimes I've seen in like comic book work. But yeah, you don't necessarily have to do that. And much of furry art goes with a proportion that's significantly smaller. Gives you characters with slightly bigger heads and slightly smaller bodies, so it's kind of chibi. There's a focus on the head and face area. Anyway, so to kind of break down, so that's kind of where we this is kind of where we're at right now, and so we can kind of draw it out from here, and noting that there are several kind of marker areas. So we've got our head up at the very top, of course. So we'll do approximately there, and then we have to have space for the neck. Neck comes down to meet the body. Right there. And then we're going to have a torso that is approximately 3 heads high and breaks approximately into and breaks into 3 areas. So our first areas are going to be the pectorals. So there will be a little space right here. The neck, you can think of it as half a head high from the bottom of the chin to the top of the pit of the neck here. So to cover that in a little bit more depth, you've got the sternocleidomastoids, which are muscles of the neck. They help in turning, and they attach here to this same pit area. This is the joint between the sternum of the rib cage and the clavicles on either side. And clavicles take kind of a coat hanger shape. But yeah, so this will be like the top of our shoulder area out here. And then from the back of the neck, if you're drawing like a specially muscular figure, you're going to have the hints of the trapezius come out the back there. All right, so at this top where we got the sternum and this first kind of head area, right here we've got the pectorals. Pectoral muscles attach from the sternum, and they go into the arm bone, so they kind of dip underneath the deltoid here, which we'll cover more when we get into arm bone, when we get to the arm structure. So the pecs kind of tuck underneath the arm, right up there, right in this kind of armpit area, and they'll come down around about here. All right, and then under the pectorals, we'll have the first beginning of our abdominal area. We'll have kind of our first two masses. The rectus abdominis breaks into 8 areas. So the first 2 are going to be up here. The first 4 are going to be up here. The bottom 4 are going to be down here. Like for you can kind of treat this as one area, but this basically breaks down into like, so the first head area is going to cover from top of the neck to the bottom of the pectorals, and then the second head area is going to be your middle pectorals, and then right about here is going to be where your navel, your belly button is, and then down here is your rectus abdominis is going to lead to the groin area right here. So we got a chest, a torso, a groin. So we got pectorals. You're going to have the kind of serratus anterior box that's going to be right here. Those are rib muscles. So you can consider the rib cage is going to be here, and its shape is going to be kind of a circular thing right there. If you're studying bones, it'll get you a more accurate shape. But we can think of it as being about right there. And then so that'll be our rib cage. Maybe that's a little big, but it's okay. Bodies are different. All right, so we've got serratus. You'll see a little bit of latissimus dorsi come out here on the side as well. And then down here you're going to have your oblique muscles. Those obliques are going to come around right there actually, and that's going to be where our legs start. All right, so that's the torso. From the front, 3 heads tall. From the back, it's 3.5 heads tall. That's including kind of this neck area with the trapezius, and I think it's including a little bit of the buttocks area as well. So make sure you draw those butts. It's good for you. All right. Yeah. Next up, we'll go ahead and we'll go to the arm. So the arm starts up here at the arm bone structure wise, kind of originates from this point right here, where the clavicles meet the sternum. That's kind of like the deep pit of the neck area, and you can tell that the arms attach there to the torso, because when you lift up your arms, your clavicle bones kind of form up into a V. You can't see me kind of demonstrate, but if you just kind of either lift your arms above your head slightly, or just give a really big like shrug, you can tell that like, oh, those bones are moving at that joint, right at where the pit of the neck area is. So it starts out there, and the deltoid attaches at the clavicle area, and it also wraps around the back and attaches to the shoulder blades on the opposite. But when we're drawing the arm, we're gonna draw like the area of the biceps and triceps. So your biceps are gonna tuck up underneath here to the deltoid, and the biceps are gonna attach to a lower the point on the lower forearm. So your elbow is going to be just ever so slightly higher than this navel area right here. So this is going across the elbow to the other side, and so we kind of get this this crisscross action. So like that's the bicep, and then behind it is going to be the tricep. Also goes up underneath the deltoid area here. And then with the forearm has a bunch of muscles, and they all have their part in controlling the hand ultimately. So we've got the biceps area going down here, kind of crisscrossing, and the same thing happens here. We've got a crisscrossing motion with the bones of the hand, and so the hand's going to come out approximately there. So we can think of the arm as approximately 3 and, let's see here, Hogarth's measure is 2.75, 2 3/4 of a head. No, I don't think that's right. I think he means 3 3/4 of the head. Not 3 3/4. You know what? That's bogus. So I'm just going to skip over that. Think of the arm as being approximately 3 and I guess a third heads tall for this work in proportions. And then we're going to get the hand area here. The hand is going to be approximately 2/3 of the head high. So like if you're drawing, and I've gone over hands before in previous videos, but your hand is going to reach approximately from the bottom of your chin to the top of your is going to reach to your kind of brow line. It's going to reach above your brow line a little bit at least, but yeah. So the hand is going to be approximately 2/3 of the head high, and so we'll reflect that when they kind of hang down here. Alright, moving on to the legs. So we got the arm and the hand. We're going to move on to the legs. The legs, from this point, we've got 4 heads down, right? So we're going to start, no, excuse me. Your legs start up in the torso area. So there's like a gradation between the torso area, and you're going to get your gluteus medius and maximus. Again, kind of this is the groin area right here. So we got kind of three bulging areas here. We've got the obliques, the gluteus medius, the gluteus maximus coming in from the back, and then from the we will have those will, let's see here, the iliac crest. Yes. So you've got your iliac crest. It's a bone formation of the pelvis. So the pelvis reaches forward. It's got these kind of like crest areas here and there. Below that, you've got the gluteus attachments, and approximately right here we will have what's called the trochanter of the femur. Yeah, because you've got this little ball joint that locks up into the pelvic area right there, and that's your hip. So you got the trochanter of the femur. You've got the ball joint attaching to the hip right there. And then across the front, that's kind of the bone structure. If I'm drawing more of the muscle structure, we've got Rectus Femoris, which attaches up at the iliac crest and goes down all the way across the knee, and the knee point is going to be approximately there. So this is going to be our like 4 head heights downwards. This is going to be what we're thinking of as the leg. So rectus femoris across the front is going to be the most prominent leg muscle. There are muscles to either side of it. I'm forgetting the names of them right now, but rectus femoris crosses over the knee. Again, if we're just thinking about that, it can kind of do this kind of like crossing the boundaries motion. So this is going to be the point where this is going to be approximately the point where the kneecaps are. So we got rectus femoris, and we're kind of adding some more meat onto the sides. Make sure that we have some nice good set of legs. Rectus femoris, and then the back is going to be the hamstrings. But yeah, so we've got the knee area, and then from here we've got gastrocnemius, and so this is going to be a bit tall, but that's okay. We'll make it work. So gastrocnemius, we can think of kind of a sphere that kind of tips up this way, so like it goes like that. And that's going to counteract the action of the foot and the ankle area. So we've got kind of an ankle area here, and this is where our feet are going to go. Approximately right here. We're going to get a big toe. And off to the sides. And we've got an ankle structure that comes out right there, and kind of like you'll kind of notice that there's a rhythm with joints. Like we'll go this way, we'll go that way, we'll go this way back at the hips, we'll go this way into the body, and so da 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 da. It's kind of what Hogarth calls the rhythm, and muscles go in a rhythm too. We've got like this one goes to the top, and then these ones will go to the sides, and then this one again will go. And then this one kind of again goes to the sides, top sides, and they interlock kind of like a chain. You can think of them as a chain, where one goes this way, and then the other goes this way. Because they gotta tuck into each other, and they each gotta tug the bones their various ways. That produces the movement in the human body. Yeah. All right. Any questions so far? Go ahead and type them in the chat, or you can come online. I don't think it's recording voices right now. But yeah. If there are no questions.
Oh, no. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's recording voices.
Okay. All right. All right. Yeah. So that's we've got let's see here. To kind of cover a little bit from the back area. So we've got to roughly correct, and then you'll find again that your hands will drop approximately to the midpoint between the femur and the kneecap. Maybe the thumb won't be like that, but you can kind of pound it out. Learn how it works. So again, we've got kind of like a kind of stout heroic figure here. This isn't very V-shaped, but but yeah, general principles apply. So we're gonna have some action up there. The kind of tilt. As long as you've got these kind of like back and forth shapes, those will more or less reflect how the real life things act. But yeah, there we've got human body proportions. And so, like, if you want to take notes on where stuff is, yeah. So again, we're marking from the top of the shoulders to the groin area is going to be where the torso fills in. And thinking of the torso as a box where the legs connect, we've got it goes up just a little bit higher, like 4.5 heads approximately, from where it meets the top of the iliac crest here to the ankle area, and then from the ankle area out, we've got our feet. And those will be different if you're drawing like plantigrade versus digitigrade. One of the things that you can do as far as like making sense of an anthro leg as opposed to a plantigrade leg here, or a digitigrade as opposed to plantigrade, I would shrink the femur down a bit. So let me draw out the lines right here again, so we can get something down. And so we've got a knee area right there, right? But if we're drawing an anthro, we can shrink the femur down just a bit, and then have our tibia and fibula kind of area go back this way. And then we've got the calcaneus, and can give you an idea of one interpretation of like what an anthro leg might be. And this is kind of turned to the side. So like if I'm doing the side here, and we got a butt because we can draw butts. Let's do that as a side area. So we raise our kind of knee. It goes up a bit higher, and then our heel area is our calcaneus. It's going to be right here. It's going to be a lot higher, and then there will be these extended tarsals, and then kind of the paw area. Am I drawing this front on, or am I drawing it from the side? Pick a thing. Coming in from the side. Alright, there we go. And make a note of how these things all kind of crisscross. Excuse me. I hope this isn't totally nonsensical. But our hands will come back to the approximately the same spot. We've moved that up, and then maybe you disagree with this interpretation. Maybe this calcaneus is way too high. Maybe you're right. Alter it a little bit. Find your own proportions. Find what works for you. From the side, we got the arms, and that will come up to the neck. And we've got maybe not a totally humanoid-looking head, but something with a muzzle shape. Tie this back to furry art, and maybe lower that head just a little bit. Something. But we still got all of the major muscle groups of a human body. we gotta have a tail, because why not? Yeah. Cool. But yeah, so like adding the ears on top and so forth is like it's kind of messed up our proportions a little bit, but you know, it's one of those things that'll tighten up in your art with practice. And this is not a proportion that I typically use with like furry stuff anyway. Quite I'm quite lax when it comes to doing furry art, so often my figures end up being more like 6 or 7 heads tall. They're smaller, they're cuter for whatever reason. But yeah, if you want to lock a more if you want it to obtain a more heroic proportion, you can keep the head kind of constrained to this size. You know, maybe it's a bit large here, but I could is that a part of that? Could maybe scale that down just a bit. Oh yeah, so that's an option. As far as artistic liberty goes. But yeah, so there are proportions of the body. Oh yeah, I said I was gonna cover the back some, didn't I? So why don't I do that? We'll come back in and I'll do that. And I'll use the red one this time. I'll go over here for this one. Because why not? We'll keep the same heroic proportions-ish. So, but because we're looking at it from the back, we're going to have our neck overlap. So, we got the trapezius muscle, looks kind of like a kite. And this will go from, this will line up approximately with the navel right there. Trapezius is quite large. But it also tucks underneath the deltoid some. Or rather, it's going to get into this kind of this area, the shoulder blade muscles area. Infraspinatus and some other technical anatomical terms. Just a moment. Alright, so yeah, from the back we've got, start out with trapezius, the shoulder blade group, your lats, latissimus dorsi, those will come around the front. We see them like right here a little bit. Latissimus dorsi, and then the obliques kind of tuck right there. Then we've got our gluteus medius again. Oh, I'm slipping. I am slipping. Alright, so we've got our trochanter right there, so maybe things are not quite this big. Trapezius, however, is still quite big. So we've got our lats group right there. We're going to get our gluteus, our obliques right there, gluteus medius, and then gluteus maximus. We've had kind of overlapping this trochanter area because that's what it does. One of the things that Hogarth does is that you can define the back by kind of this M shape. Let me swap to another pencil here so you can see it a little better. This M shape right there. To whereas the middle corner of the M is going to be trapezius, and then to either side here is going to be your shoulder blades. So these arms can kind of swing up and out depending on like where you've positioned your arm, if it's reaching above or something like that. that's kind of a hinge right there and a hinge right there. You can kind of think of it that way. The shoulder blade doesn't really have a hinge right there because the only hinge where the arm connects is right here at the front of the sternum, and the shoulder blades just kind of float along the back. They're not really attached anywhere as far as ligaments and musculature goes. But yeah, that's probably wrong. But you know what? Do your own research. If I've done it wrong, then you deserve to teach yourself better. But yeah, so I've drawn it to where it looks kind of like this looks kind of like back fat. Hey, maybe it's chubby on the back. Who knows, right? Yeah. Then gonna draw so the trochanter is where the groin area is, right? And so the butt is gonna come out and back up to that area. But yeah, you'll have the same. Kind of overlap. Okay, from the back of the legs, it's important that these are different muscles right here and right here. So we'll get that. Those are the hamstrings, and those tuck up underneath the gluteus maximus. And again, go back up to the pelvic region. But yeah, those are shaped kind of like that. And then they go back down to, again, remembering our sloping. They tuck back into Gastrocnemius. And then our feet kind of flare out that way and that way, except from the back. We're going to be looking at the heel area, so those will be more like that. The toes will flare out for the front. But yeah, this is pretty dry stuff as far as like anatomy, and it's not necessarily the most exciting as far as artistic topics, but if you master it, your drawings look that much better. But yeah. When you were drawing the sides, I brought up a question. Okay. How do you do folds of skin and chubby bodies? Oh yeah, well, I mean, you have to... So, fat hangs off of the body in certain areas. So, like, from the back... So, the fat will hang off the same areas that the muscles kind of do, right? So, for your... So like on the underside of the pectorals here will be a big area. So let me do this on a new layer so that I can kind of show you. I'll overlap this in green. So we've got our pectorals area, right? And fat's gonna kind of attach there too. And that's why we've got, when you've got people with big bellies, they'll have kind of floppy, overlapping breasts here. And then the fat will hang from underneath the same areas, right? And so it will go out and will kind of hang down. So, and then it'll stretch the skin, so it'll lower the navel some from the front. But yeah, so if you've got like a bigger body type, the fat will attach to the same areas. You just kind of have to see where those areas are, and from the back it'll be the same way. Like, right, this looks kind of chubby because like it's a little more exaggerated. It's bulbous. It kind of, and it maybe kind of sags a little bit. and maybe it shouldn't. But yeah, so you'll get back fat areas going along the same places. And so if you're drawing a bigger person, they'll have like maybe a butt that sags a little bit. And maybe they got their legs are pudgier. But they'll usually have like I'm a bigger person and I've got some really developed calf muscles. But yeah, no, there are some great tutorials out there as far as like where to attach fat to a character to kind of to make those kind of pudgier characters. But yeah, the general principles of anatomy still holds. Like a bigger person still has all of the exact same muscles. They're just hidden underneath a layer of fat and skin. And as far as like yeah, no problem. And I mean like folds, the skin folds will kind of appear in those same areas, right? So you have to think back to, you know, the muscle structure and where the muscles attach to the bone structure. The fat kind of hangs off the same areas, and you know the where those body parts attach to the bone is going to be where gravity will kind of take over, right? Because if I've got a nude model right here, the breasts will kind of go like down, but they'll also go to the side. So like they'll curve kind of out that way. And so that's why like if you'll see like a chubby person, they'll get their breasts hanging out down this way. And then they'll have the belly kind of attaches in the same area. They'll still have and like I said, they'll still have a navel, and then sometimes that will be an area of fat as well. And you know, and again, fat and chubby characters can have different body types too, and they can have fat hanging off of them in different ways as well. So like maybe it's not all belly here. Maybe there's some stuff hanging off their oblique area, right? And so we'll get kind of you can get kind of a shape where they'll have stuff hanging off there, and just like yeah, fat you know kind of hangs off and sags, and you can think of like you can think of feminine breasts the same way basically, because they're big sacks of fatty tissue. So if I was gonna draw like this anthro character a little more feminine, maybe I would reduce that a bit more. But they're gonna have breasts that hang off. They'll attach to the same area, right? This pit of the neck area. You can think of that as like a point of attachment, and so everything is going to hang like both down and to the side a little bit. If they're not supported, if it's a nude character, if they've got a support undergarment, that works in the opposite direction to press them up and inwards a bit. Maybe exaggerate the hips a little bit on a more feminine figure. But yeah, they'll be fatty hanging tissue. You can think of them as like kind of teardrop shaped, and they hang out that way. But yeah, men and women have the same muscle groups, slightly different bone structure for women as opposed to men. I need to brush up on those differences a little bit more if I'm to be totally transparent and professional. But yeah. Any more questions? on just a minute. Still hanging on just a little while. It's okay. No rush. Trying to think of what else I could cover. Oh yeah. So like the foot. Here's something I can go over real quick with people. So like the foot is can be kind of a confusing area for people. But it's approximately the same length as the forearm area. So you can think of it as like being a third heads tall and half a head wide. Yeah, but with the length of a forearm area, and the foot breaks down into a couple different areas. Do I have that question yet? Nope. Okay. So we can break a foot into fourths approximately. And this is going to be a human foot, but this will be for good reference if you ever need like human anatomy or something like that. So from I'm going to draw like the either bottom sole of a right foot or top view of a left foot, but we will curve downwards. From the top here, we'll just kind of make this curve downwards, and that's kind of a guideline for where we can place our big toe. And again, things kind of like overlap here, but we're going to get a ball of the foot area right approximately here, and we're going to get a heel area right down here. So we'll have an inward curve from the ball of the foot, the arch right there, and then along the outside is going to be typically more straight. And so we'll have 1, 2, 3 kind of dividers there. But yeah. Again, bodies are different, feet are different. You can think of that, the heel as going out to one side, and it'll maybe kind of bulge out here. But yeah, and you can think of proportions of the foot lengthwise going about that. And so understanding proportions, that's another thing, is understanding proportions. You can set them in perspective a little easier too. But yeah. Alright, cool. I'm gonna, if there are no further questions, I'll go ahead and call that it for the recording part of this stream. I said earlier to Sky that I'd be open to critique people's pieces again, like last week, if anyone has something to share. But yeah, I'll go ahead and call that it for this stream. For the viewers on YouTube, thank you for watching. If you like it, subscribe, leave a like, whatever. I will upload this afterwards. I'll leave a link to Hogarth's book in the description. Yeah, and have a good day. That's it for the recording. Bye, YouTube.